Welcome everybody to another live recording of the Business Travel 360 Linking the Travel Industry podcast, where we discuss travel industry news you are talking about on LinkedIn. My name is Rian and I'm one of your hosts today. I'm a co-founder at Agentivity, a travel data platform with a vision to enable travel sellers and buyers to be truly data-driven businesses. So if that sounds of interest, please get in touch. Very happy to see Anne back this week. So as usual, I can say that again. We are joined by Anne and Ash. Over to you, Anne.
Thank you so much. I'm Anne. Welcome, everybody. I'm an independent consultant with LeapShift and happy to help anyone with our distribution strategy, NDC, one order, or airline beta. Over to you, Ash.
Hi, everyone. My name is Ash. I'm the host of a weekly business travel podcast called What's Up in Business Travel, where we give you the important updates in under 15 minutes. Additionally, I'm the vice president at Traxo, and this is Linking the Travel Industry.
So for those new to the event, welcome. The format of this discussion is a quick 30-minute, if we can, roundup of the stories that made the headlines last week. And we just discussed them a bit more in detail here. First story that I spotted that stood out for me last week was easyJet getting back, if they want, at some of the unhappy British Airways Frequent Fly customers with a, let's call it the type of status match. It's not really that. They're just giving you a 50% discount on the corporate loyalty program at easyJet for the first, group of people signing up for that. But it is nice. What I loved about this was the actual campaign. It was brilliant. They called it No More Tears. Tiers spelled T-I-E-R-S, as opposed to, all the issues with the British Airways loyalty tiers. So I love that angle. Ash, did you guys pick up on this ad campaign?
Yeah, we're not really big on being a British Airways frequent flyer member here, but we are part of the one world. The other thing that also struck me about this was, of course, the comment you just made, but also it's not just easyJet that's after British Airways travelers. Virgin Atlantic also launched a campaign, and they're also aggressively pursuing them. If I'm based in the UK, I probably like the Virgin Atlantic one as well. So I want to look at both and make sure that you're making the right decision.
How does Virgin Atlantic know they don't have the right advertising agency, right? Because we're not talking about it today. We're talking about the one from easyJet. I just think that was so brilliant, this No More Tears. So yes, but sorry, I guess the Virgin Atlantic one was good as well. Of course, it's more applicable because you can't really, long haul British Airways, etc., compare that to potentially easyJet. But there are obviously a lot of regional travel on easyJet, which would be suitable for that. Good. And I'm not sure if you wanted to comment on this one.
It's interesting. Everyone is after British Airways. Lufthansa is also doing a status match, right? And I believe that their team are also. The status match is really favorable from Lufthansa Group. So yeah, everyone's trying to get British Airways loyalty members.
Remember, if you're a British Airways traveler, you don't want to leave too quickly because British Airways is coming out with a new website.
That's correct. Yes, that's true. So you might just cling on to that. Absolutely. I just mentioned this before the session started to both Anne and Ash. I fell a bit, victim to all the results news from last week. There were a lot of results news. Many we weren't even covering in my newsletters. So I know after I published, also IAG came out with good results, etc. So we might run through these quite quickly. The ones I saw, Flight Centre recording record results. Now, both them and Amex GBT reported really good results. And what struck me of interest here is that both of them talk about total transaction value increases. Amex talking about 10% year-over-year increase in total transaction value, and Flight Centre Group talking about, on the corporate side, 2% increase. I haven't really picked up much on the total transaction value. I can't recall it standing out as much from last year or the years before. Anne, is this a new way of talking about things?
Very interesting to me because we haven't spoken so much about it in the past, have we? It is interesting measuring it, especially after last week. You've been debating a lot about the value of the TMC and the death of the TMC and blah, 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 blah.
So yeah, this is interesting because what also struck me, a second thing was very interesting. So there we are, I've got Flight Centre talking about an increase in their total transaction value, American Express, Global Business Travel talking about an increase in their transaction values, and both of them contributing and helping them with their results. And then we saw a report by UK-based Travelogix and partnership with the Advantage Travel Partnership, where amongst the sort of 90 odd UK-based TMC partners, which we believe this data is from, they actually saw a decline in average transaction value, so not total transaction value, but average, I guess the average total transaction value of 6.8, which is high. And they also talk about the fact that this is the third year in a row. So that stood out for me as quite odd, right? We see the transaction values are going up, and we see in the UK they suggest it is going down. Not quite sure what to make of that.
I'll take a stab at this. So with Amex GBT, keep in mind that they're talking about 10%, but that's 10% overall. If you break that number down and you look into the details, North America, the increase was only up by 5%. In the European market, it was 2%. And the market that kind of helped them get to the 10% number was the EMEA market, which was 12%. And that's reflective of the delayed effect of the COVID pandemic, because as we know, Asia market came out in 2024 and started to travel a lot more. So there's a delayed reaction here, which is why they got to 10%. I wouldn't be too excited if I'm in the Amex GBT boardroom, because this is not a great look, especially when they're trying to acquire CWT. The other thing also is that while this is all great transaction-wise, they've actually lost money 2 years in a row for about $135 million each of the last 2 years. So losing money and having an increased transaction count doesn't really paint a rosy picture. And so I would be a little bit concerned about the fact that how am I going to negate this 2 year in a row negative $135 million while my transaction count is going up? So there's clearly non-profitability built into this somewhere.
This is why we have you on the show, Ash, because somebody has to look into the details, right? And I clearly don't, but there you go. Thank you for that contribution. I also saw in that AMX report something about them pushing that CWT, I think, till end 2025. I think that was the comment, if I'm not mistaken.
September 8th, the US DOJ is going to look at it.
Okay, fine. Other earnings reports we saw last week from airlines, finally some great results there from Qantas, positive news from Qantas, right, Anne? And also very good to see Fly Dubai in this post that I saw. They talked about shattering their 15-year performance record. So Fly Dubai posted a $674 million profit on top of $3.5 billion of revenue. And Qantas announced profit for the first 6 months ending December 24, so that's the second half of 2024, and that increased by $140 million compared to the previous period. So good news there from both airlines, right? And
Qantas, I think, is sort of self-explanatory. I mean, we've had all the competition really dying down in down under, right? And there is very little. They're very, very dominant. And the market is sort of back to being divided between Qantas and Virgin Australia. And there is a high demand. But of course, we like seeing airlines making a profit. Fly Dubai, I'm not at all surprised about. They're a very, very innovative airline. It is an airline. They do a great job with virtual interlining. It's just doing very, very well.
And staying down under, and you just talked about the fact that Virgin Australia got cleared for their equity sale to Qatar Airways. So Qatar Airways investment in Virgin Australia, which they want to be at 25%, has been approved by the Treasury in Australia. This is not unexpected. The deal was, announced, and this is going ahead. But it is just interesting that this went ahead. So this is, all-round good news. And I just want to relate to this, sticking with Qatar Airways and investment in other airlines. Not that they've expanded on this, but their cooperation with South African-based Airlink has improved to the extent that Airlink can now be booked for using Avios. And, you have to do a bit of a runaround. You have to get your Qatar Airways Privilege Club account. There's a few things you have to link, but it does work. And for those in the market who can remember, there used to be a Avios representative there in the form of Comair, who's gone bankrupt, and that was flying as British Airways. So this is bringing that back into the market. So again, good news for that relationship, right, Anne?
I have a question there. Don't you find it so overcomplicated that you have to have a Qatar loyalty account and you have to link that to your British Airways account? When I read that, I sort of went, why? This is so complicated. Why do I have to do that?
You know who else does that? And Singapore Airlines does that with United Airlines as well. So if you're a United member and you're flying Singapore Airlines, you got to do all these linking games. And by the way, you cannot call up Singapore or even go on their website to add the United number. I mean, so all these complications, just like you're talking about specifically this case, these layered approaches are just so nasty for the traveler. And most travelers just kind of roll their eyes and say, screw it, I don't need it.
I experienced that last week. I had to call Iberia to add my American Advantage number. I just couldn't do it on the app. You sort of just go, really?
Oh, and Singapore Airlines, by the way, if you call them, they say that you have to do it at the airport on the day of. You can't even do it in advance.
Wow.
Clearly, somebody needs to clean all these up.
Not very customer-centric.
Before we go on, I just want to take a few moments to turn to the audience. We have, again, a very full room today, so thank you so much for your support and giving us your time, especially on a Monday. We do appreciate this. If you do enjoy this event, please spread the word. We do this every Monday, and Ash will tell us more about that at the end. We do appreciate you and giving us your time. The purpose of Linking the Travel Industry is to get as many of us to connect to one another. We do feel that the industry needs to have more connections, so have a look around the room, see who else is there, and send out some connection requests, and also accept some new requests that might come your way. Just to say thank you for giving us your time on a Monday. So back to the list of stories. Fascinating development here for me. This is reminiscent of Ryanair and a few other OTAs, but this is over in the States. This is Expedia reaching an agreement with Southwest Airlines, making them the first major online travel agent to offer the airline's content. So this is a significant development, right, Anne?
Absolutely. Fantastic. I wasn't aware that this was the first for Southwest with a major OTA. Okay, I know that they're sort of conservative and traditional and very much, their own website is the main focus, but it did surprise me. So I'm sure that Ash knows so much more.
Yeah, Ash books Southwest all the time, Ash. So did you miss not booking them on Expedia?
This is not a big deal at all to any traveler. This is kind of boring and 10 years too late type of a relationship. The fact that Southwest is going to be an Expedia means nothing to anybody that flies Southwest, because most people that fly Southwest go to flysouthwest.com. And they sure as heck ain't going to compare Southwest against other airlines because they already know the routes that they want to fly. So unless you're in a comparison shopping experience, then maybe you like it. But then that's why we have Google, right? So maybe they both want to make some positive news because neither one of them is doing too hot, I think, at least with Southwest. This might be an attempt to put some positive PR in the news cycle just to get some of the negative stuff out of the way.
And Mohit's thinking the same as you've just commented there to say that didn't Southwest do something earlier with Google Flights? I think, Anna, was you who did a little review on that, or we talked about that a lot.
If you remember that the Google experience is far, far more superior because Google was giving you the different fare types. They were showing you what you get for each of the fare types. I mean, it was a far superior experience. So again, like I was saying, if somebody is going to do comparison shopping or attempt to get information about a route, they're definitely not going to do it on Expedia.
Okay, let's move on. Next story for me, again, back to Australia. The OTA Webjet has agreed to pay a proposed 9 million, I assume it's Australian dollars, penalty and also contribute $100,000 to court costs that was incurred by the ACCC in a federal court action relating to alleged misleading online sales practices and fee disclosures. So they were a bit naughty in their advertising and they got wrapped over the knuckles by the tune of 9 million Aussie dollars. Do any of you know what is that in real money, Anne? It's a lot of money still, right?
That's a lot of money. Yeah, and I'm really surprised. Why do we see this happening again and again and again? I don't get that. Is there so much money in trying to sort of defraud customers or whatever? I just don't get it. I really don't.
Yeah, you've got a point there. Did I also read a post about how much the OTAs were spending in online advertising? A couple of billion.
My extra story coming up.
Oh, okay, cool. We'll keep it for then.
ACCC must have made a lot of money over the last 5 years. They must be loaded because they've been fining everybody that they can find. And I think Qantas is probably 60% of their revenue.
9 million Aussie dollars equals 5.6 million US. Okay. But it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money.
Yes. In another story, Etihad might become the first Gulf carrier to go public in 17 years. They are eyeing an IPO and they are looking for an investor to help them along with that. And we wish them well. I'm sure the money will flow. There's definitely money there. Okay, extra stories. I think, Anne, you have a story or two for us. Is that correct?
Well, a couple of things stood out for me during the week. One, of course, is the record profits of Amadeus. It's double-digit profits. It just soars. You sort of ask yourself, how's it possible? It's like every time they outdo themselves. It's they're very, very profitable. Let's put it that way. So there's a lot of money in this industry. And then, of course, there was something that I thought was wonderful, because you know that I go on and on and on about this, but this is Hawaiian Airlines, who have introduced the selling of Hawaiian products and promoting Hawaiian products. And I just, I love this. They have an exclusive collection. They're featuring best creators in Hawaii. They're doing all that stuff that just warms my heart.
I saw your post on that story and I couldn't figure out. So this is one of those. So why hasn't this happened before? Why now?
Airlines in general, or
Yes.
do you mean
Specific to this? I mean, of Hawaiian and selling Hawaiian, products. Surely that should have happened before. It's a bit strange it only happens now.
Yeah, it should have happened before. I totally agree. But I think that airlines they have a pretty robust merchandising platform these days. They're using Excelia for all their merchandising. So I think they're doing very well with that. So they've obviously enabled the capabilities.
Thank you for those two. And thank you for Michael Carter commenting and reminding us that ACCC stands for the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission. I have an extra story or two. This one is a bit bizarre. There's a new regulation out of India requiring the airlines to share PNR data with the Indian government ahead of the flight. And this is clashing with a European data protection law. And so this is a bit of a conundrum here. The Indian airlines and some of the Middle Eastern airlines have complied. I believe the go-live date is 1st of April, but the European airlines are telling the Indian government that they can't because it will put them at odds with, regulations in their own market. So that's just something to keep an eye on. I saw that in a post on Business Line, and it was just interesting to me.
The nice thing about regulation is that you can always change it.
Yes, of course you can change it. So Ash, I didn't prepare an extra story slide for you, but do you have an extra story or two for us?
So we're talking about 18 billion with a B dollars in marketing spend between Airbnb, Booking, Expedia, and Trip.com. So the four of them spent quite a bit of money in marketing. And when you compare these numbers to the years before, we're talking about double-digit growth. So we're talking about like 117%. We're talking about 22% increase, 12% increase. So it's all double-digit growth increases. I think that clearly the OTAs getting back on track with some of their marketing spend that they used to have pre-pandemic, and they're spending more money than ever before. And this is definitely impactful to travel management companies specifically and to others, because anytime an OTA spends more money on marketing, that means that somebody in your corporation is booking travel outside of your travel programs. So I look at these marketing dollars. I've always looked at them from the eyes of PMC, meaning that you have a competition and your competition is increasing their marketing spend.
Okay, good. So, and you have a quick other story, Ash?
I have another story. So unfortunately, over the weekend, an airline called Silver Airways, based in Florida, has gone belly up. So they had filed bankruptcy in December. Yep. And now they've canceled all their flights. No more Silver Airlines or Airways for anybody that might be thinking of flying them or using them in the future.
That's very sad news indeed. That does nicely bring us towards the end of the show here. We've had a great event today, so thank you so much again for those attending, giving us your time on a Monday. We appreciate that. If you are new to the show, hope to see you back next week. We do this every week, so thank you so much. And thank you so much for all the comments. Love those again. Over to you, Anne.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. We just love it when you comment and interact. Thanks, everyone. Over to Ash.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining today's live recording of Linking the Travel Industry. We record this podcast live every week on Monday. We ask that you share this event with others that you know. Chances are high that if you enjoyed today's session, others that you know will as well. If you ever miss a show because of time zone or availability, we make the podcast available on businesstravel360.com. This is Linking the Travel Industry, signing off.